but we, the Muslim, the Pakistani Muslim, and the tribal people have no rights in this world. They are targeting us. They are declaring us terrorists before coming this world. For example, the 10 months Bibi, they killed her and they declared her a terrorist. So it's very strange and it's not good. And we, the people, are hate America and hate their forces and their people. And we are thinking that there is no care for human and there are no humanity in these people. So it's very bad on our part that they are killing our innocent people.
And Shehzad Akbar, what are your plans now in moving forward? Do you see any progress in your lawsuits and in changing U.S. policy?
I think these lawsuits, on one sense, are making some progress in a way that the number of drone strikes in Pakistan have gone down. Now we don't know that what is the real reason, but the fact remains on ground that the numbers have gone down. And since President Obama's last year announcement that there are going to be no more signature strikes, we have to still investigate on ground that if there are more signature strikes taking place, but they seem to definitely have gone down. In terms of the legal battle, I think the most important task ahead of us is to get some sort of justice for the civilian victims, because this is an issue which U.S. needs to address and cannot shy away from. Whatever strategic benefit President Obama thinks he has achieved, that is in the past now. And what is left for the future is the case of civilian victims. And according to Peshawar High Court finding, which came out last year, there are more than 1,400 civilian victims of U.S. drone strikes in Pakistan. Now, this is something which President Obama can ignore and leave it when he's leaving in 2014 from the region, or he can address it, because I think this is something which will be better for the future.
Karim Khan, will you continue to speak out? You've certainly gotten a very painful warning. Are you afraid for your life?
Yes, inshallah, I will continue this efforts till I get justice. I will continue these efforts.
That was Pakistani anti-drone activist Karim Khan and his lawyer Shehzad Akbar. They joined us from London after Khan traveled there to meet with British lawmakers to speak out about U.S. drone strikes, including one that killed his brother and son in 2009. Karim Khan was abducted February 5th in Pakistan and held for 9 days just before he was due to travel to Europe. And that does it for our show.
Welcome to Going Underground with me, Afshin Ratansi. Every Monday, Wednesday and Saturday, we're bringing you the stories that really matter in the United Kingdom as we go beyond the mainstream line. In today's show, the dark side of the special relationship, the inside scoop on how the UK and the US are colluding to stop whistleblowers. Plus, while the government trumpets the latest unemployment stats, we look at whether those in work are getting paid the real wage for their labor. And move over Superman, there are new kids on the action figure block. For these stories and more, let's go underground. Thanks to Edward Snowden and Glenn Greenwald, we now know that British and US intelligence agencies are systematically employing duplicitous tactics to subvert the work of online activists. There are no signs of any acknowledgement by David Cameron's government that things are going badly wrong at GCHQ, even though his US counterpart says he will be restructuring America's mass surveillance program run by the NSA. Jesslyn Radak, Edward Snowden's lawyer, is herself a whistleblower who exposed wrongdoings at the FBI. Tom Drake was charged under the US Espionage Act for exposing the NSA's Trailblazer program used to monitor the internet. Both say that close collaboration between the US and UK secret services under the so-called Five Eyes Agreement has meant that the end now justifies the means, and they claim that authorities on both sides of the Atlantic are more concerned about putting up smoke screens to carry on spying on their populations. With me is Jesslyn Radak, formerly with the Department of Justice in the United States, and Tom Drake, formerly with the National Security Agency. Welcome, both of you. Let's begin, Tom, with the legacy of the so-called Five Eyes program in terms of how we understand cooperation between US and UK intelligence agencies today.
Well, it's an extraordinary partnership, and the primary partnership exists between the United States and the United Kingdom. That was a special relationship formed shortly after World War II. It's called the UK-USA Agreement, and it's primarily focused on signal intelligence as well as other cooperative arrangements. And it's an extremely close partnership.
And did you understand it, I mean, talking about it from the Second World War, do you understand it as a sort of project for empire formulated in the 1940s, or is it not imperialism in that way?
Well, it's one way to say it is that they did have said historically the sun never set in the British Empire. I would just say it went underground, and recognizing that it had become the American centuries, but particularly in the post-World War II era, this was an agreement that continued many of the extraordinary accesses around the world that the former British Empire had enjoyed.
And when you were at NSA, you were very aware of the cooperation, as opposed to cooperation with the other three powers within that project.
Right, it's Five Eyes, but clearly there's really the two eyes of the U.S. and the U.K. Is essentially one organization, effectively. And I was intimately familiar with GCHQ, visited there several times myself.
And so, as a person of the Department of Justice, would you have known about these kinds of projects? I mean, I know that was released. Eventually, we knew about that secret.
No, we didn't. I mean, there was a small part of justice that dealt with Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, but certainly I think most Americans were unaware of NSA, no such agency, never say anything, unaware of the agency, and certainly unaware of the close cooperation with GCHQ.
And you, Tom, faced 35 years in prison under Espionage Act charges. The Prime Minister here keeps saying that the mass surveillance program is good, but part of your case was about how difficult it is to use Trailblazer data, as it were. If you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I was charged espionage for holding up the mayor of the government, for speaking truth to it of power, and there was three primary areas. One was just intelligence failures, including 9/11. Also, massive fraud and abuse, including the Trailblazer program, which is supposed to catapult NSA into the 21st century in terms of digital. And the third one was the secret surveillance programs, the mass surveillance programs, which I was eyewitness to at the very beginning.
But interestingly, when it comes to intelligence about 9/11 and how they messed up, as it were, the mass surveillance didn't actually help. I mean, your point being that it actually confuses the issue.
Yes, because you simply create a bigger haystack, which means every straw in the haystack is a potential needle. And it becomes a pathological hoarding complex. You just need all the data, just in case, as an insurance policy. far beyond the stated purpose of going after real threats to national security or to a global order.
So why do you think the Prime Minister and President Obama say it is necessary and it does help?
They want to preserve the program.
Why?
Well, I have an answer to that, too. I think information, in this age, information is the currency of power. And power,
even though it doesn't help power,
is a coin of the realm, but still having power of information on innocent people, that is power over people. They've even admitted that. We can blackmail Muslims by gathering data on their porn habits. Even though they have admitted in terms of thwarting terrorist attacks, this kind of mass bulk collection doesn't help. It hasn't stopped a single one. The only one that it may have stopped could have been stopped in other ways. But they continue to collect the information, and I do think that is all about control of citizenry and keeping populations at bay.
When you fought for due legal process back then in the first terrorism case after 9/11, do you see many changes? You were stopped at Heathrow, of course. How do they target people, regardless of what you revealed about the FBI?
Well, I think in terms of terrorism prosecutions, they have kept those to a minimum in terms of federal courts and have been trying many different incarnations of military commissions. In terms of my coming into Heathrow, I was very surprised to be questioned about who I represent and why I travel to certain places to meet with them and digging into attorney-client privileged information, because in the U.S. that is protected, and the UK recognizes attorney-client privilege too. But to the extent that a number of American journalists and attorneys have been experiencing border problems in the U.S., in the UK, in Germany, that is a greater problem because it's cracking down on people who are dissenting, which is protected, supposedly, in the United States by the First Amendment.
As you said, there's a constitution over there. How is your understanding of the way the legal framework works in terms of the Department of Justice over there and perhaps the justice system here, because we don't have the amendments you have?
Well, that's one of the reasons I find the NSA's close cooperation with GCHQ troublesome, because we do have a constitution that normally, under the Fourth Amendment, that prohibits illegal searches and seizures, you were not allowed to spy on Americans without a warrant. And the mass bulk data collection program does exactly that. The kinds of spying on people also denies them any kind of due process. If you're spying on innocent people and trying to figure out whether they're a criminal based on the idea that they might commit a future crime, there are huge First Amendment freedom of speech and association. That comes up if you're gathering metadata on people. That reveals everyone I called, how long I spoke to them, how often I spoke to them. And people say, well, it's just metadata. So, I mean, the U.S. operates under a whole set of constitutional protections that the UK doesn't have. And whether you think that's good or bad, I mean, if they're in close cooperation, it's because the U.S. has abandoned those constitutional principles with these bulk surveillance programs.
So when, Tom, you were collaborating with the GCHQ when you were at the NSA, is that something you were aware of, what Jessica was saying, that they could circumvent the U.S. Constitution by employing the British intelligence services?
Well, that's precisely what's occurred, particularly since 9/11. You have the special arrangement.
You don't think it happened before?
I believe it happened, but nowhere near the scope and scale that it happened and was enabled after 9/11. It makes it very convenient when you have a foreign partner with that kind of relationship to essentially do extra constitutional activities. Because GCHQ also has other kinds of access that NSA does not traditionally enjoy, having access to that and letting that partner share with you gives you enormous leverage in terms of the additional information you need.
Just that when you were talking about John Walker Lind, that's nothing in a way as compared to how we now know suspects are treated.
Exactly. Well, that touched more on one of the first people, an American, who was tortured after 9/11. He was our first American detainee captured in the war with Afghanistan. And he was a precursor and foreshadowed a lot of